The April 24th, 2018 meeting of the Methacton School District Board of School Directors is now called to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Do you want to go first, or?
The lights ring.
Hello, my name is Sean Mahoney. I'm the 8th grade co-president of Student Council.
And I'm Jack Winters, the 7th grade student president of Student Council. Here is our updates on Arcola School. Why is Arcola the best school?
So Arcola is basically the best school because of our teachers. Our teachers are the ones that support us. They're always making us feel better. They're always motivating us. They're always telling us to do good in school, and they really make school fun to go to.
Academic teams. When we're part of teams, we have a spirit that nothing else can make. We make closer friends, and the teachers can really help us improve.
Arcola's social aspect. So Arcola is not just an academic school. It's also a social school. You go there to make friends. The person you're sitting next to can become your best friend in 2 years, which is your lifetime of Arcola. So it's just a really fun place to be at when you have a bunch of friends, and that's how you're going to live your life with your friends.
The after-school activities. We have activities for all personalities. We have sports, wide varieties, from field hockey to track. We have music programs, tons of them, and our theater program, as we just had Shrek the Musical. How can we improve Arcola?
Hello, what is your name, sir, for the camera?
My name is Chris Groff.
All right, and how can we make Arcola better?
I think Arcola is already great. We have great teachers, but we just need to do more hands-on activities for the students.
Oh, okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
Arcola, as he just said, is already amazing. We're the best school for a reason, but there's a few things we could make better.
Some suggestions that students have had is maybe recess or some time to spend your activities throughout the day so you don't come home with a lot of energy. And healthier choices in the lunchroom. Instead of really greasy foods, we can move to salads and healthier suggestions.
How does staying after school help the school spirit? Connection. When you're part of a sports team, you get a pride connecting yourself with others. You become a family, and you feel more responsible for your actions.
Overall happiness. So staying after school, that can help your grades improve because teachers, they can show you the subject and they can really teach you how to do something so that you're not struggling, and when you're not struggling, your parents are happy and that makes you happy.
Hello, what's your name?
I'm Katie Hole.
How can we improve Arcola?
You can't. It's so good.
Thank you for listening to us today and taking your time out of your busy schedules. Your dedication to our school district is much appreciated. Thank you for making Arcola the best school ever.
Stay here, gentlemen.
board members, every month we recognize students for their outstanding accomplishments, as well as hearing them tell us about how important school is and how important their teachers are to the district. These fine men have again, done an excellent job for us, and they are now junior school board directors. Congratulations. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Very well done. Thank you.
Good job. Awesome. Going on the website.
Next on the agenda, we have our co-principal.
They should be appreciated for that.
To present an award. Ms. Mangano?
Do you have the award? Do you have the award? He already has it. You're just going to talk about it.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to present. And just as an FYI, I had nothing to do by telling them that Arcola was the best school ever. They came up with all that on their own. But I have to say, I would agree. I'm partial to that. But they did a great job, and I'm very appreciative of their work and their demonstration of the use of the Chromebook, which is how all of that was created. So thank you. Tonight we are here to also award one of our staff members who consistently on a daily basis has just been there for all of us, staff and students alike. And this is Mr. Ben Horn. He is one of our custodians who filled in actually for a period of time as our head custodian just recently. He's been in our district for 17 years. He is always willing to assist in any way he can. He approaches his job with caring and kindness and consideration. He is a total Philadelphia fan, loves to cheer on his favorite team, such as the Eagles. Congratulations. He is a team player, and you can find him at Arcola every day with a smile. We are very appreciative of all that you do, so thank you very much.
Right?
One second. Sure. And as a follow-up to last month, we'd also recognized some award of excellence for one of our Skyview staff. Miss Betsy McGarvey is here this evening. Miss McGarvey, would you please come down? She was unable to be with us last month. But Ms. McGarvey serves as an instructional aide. She identifies with the emotional support students in the Skyview building, and she has a calm demeanor and caring nature to help make the connections with students and help them through their day. She is focused on supporting students both academically, socially, and emotionally. Betsy is also always ready to support her colleagues throughout the day by covering classes. Ms. McGarvey, thank you so much for all that you do for our students here at Methacton School District. If you would like to shake hands with members of the board. So just need a photo here. I might be a little out of order, but try to wing it.
That's okay. Wing away.
Okay. Excellent. You want to transfer the photo?
Appreciate it.
Good evening, everybody. There we go. The public is hereby advised of the audio and video recording of this meeting for the purposes of rebroadcasting. All board members are in attendance here this evening, and there was an executive session of the board held in the high school prior to this board meeting on April 24th, 2018, for the purpose of discussing 3 student waiver agreement matters. And with that, I believe we will move on to another exciting presentation, our M Awards.
So this evening, it gives me great pleasure to introduce a number of coaches. We have Mr. Durstein, Mrs. Quintos. I think there's a substitute in for her this evening, but Ms. Miller and Mr. Clark here to present M Awards for athletic achievements here in Methacton for the winter season. Folks, please come forward.
I'd like to start by saying thank you to the school board members, Dr. Zerby, for the opportunity to be recognized tonight. I'm going to be talking about the boys basketball team and just our season. It was truly a pleasure and an honor to work with the guys this year. What they were able to accomplish this season really was a testament to their hard work and their teamwork and how they kind of battled through some ups and downs. It was rewarding for me to see that they overcame some adversity, got off to a slow start. We had a young team and lost 3 games in a row early in the season. Right around the new year, we were 5-5, and then we ended up winning 13 out of our last 16 games. When we won the PAC championship, that was our 7th win in a row at that time. So it's really one of the things we're always working towards in our program is progress. So we're not asking the guys to be perfect, but we want to make progress. And every day we want to make progress. And to see the progress we made and the way the season finished out was really exciting for me. So I'm going to recognize each of the guys. I'm going to call them up one by one. So when you guys come up, if you could just, you can get your certificate, and then we'll line up in the front here. First up, Ben Christian. Next, Brett Eberly. Matt Fritz. Marcus Gerardo. Noah Katal. Owen Kropp. Eric Timko. Connor Smith. And Jeff Woodward. We had 3 members of the team that had prior commitments and were not able to make it: David Duda, Miguel Prince, and Aiden Haslett.
Can you get in? Take a picture real quick? Thank you. All right. Who's next? All right.
I'm easy. Hi, I'm Kathy Miller. I'm the varsity girls tennis coach. Tennis is an interesting sport in that it's a team sport, but it's got singles players, it has doubles players, and then at the end of the season, your singles players can become doubles players, and so it can get very interesting as how they pair up and go. The two young women who are being recognized tonight are primarily singles players. Dina and Tina play 1 and 2. I know it does get confusing, but I keep it straight. Played number 1 and 2 on the girls' team. They both did very well in the Pac-10 this year. Dina missed some matches, but was 4 and 2, but did finish second in the Pac-10 singles tournament. Tina had an overall record of 7 and 1 in the Pac, and then got to the quarterfinals in the singles tournament. Dina advanced to the districts by virtue of finishing second in the Pac-10 as a singles player. And as it is, if you don't advance to states out of the singles draw at districts, you can go back into the doubles draw for your conference or your league. And at that point, Dina and Tina combined to be a doubles team. It takes a little work to get two single-minded folks to work together and do that. They ended up winning the Pac-10 doubles tournament, and that's why they're here tonight. They went down to play in the district tournament and got down there and had a tough draw, but did well, and ended up going back to play for 5th place. Now, normally 5th place would be if somebody above you doesn't get to go to states, then you get to go. So you kind of go down kind of like, all right, well, we'll play and see what happens. We'll take our chance. They got down there and got a surprise in that one of the teams ahead of them had dropped out or had to withdraw, which meant they were playing for 4th place, which meant a seat at the state tournament. Well, that changes your whole thought process. They did very well, won the 4th spot, got to states, and unfortunately met a tough draw from District 7, which is always very difficult. But Dina and Tina are both juniors. I fairly well expect them to be back and try and fight each other out for 1st and 2nd singles next year, but it looks very well for the team next year to advance again, perhaps win the Pac again, and get these two girls to states either as a singles player or as a double player. Tina Prince and Dina Noemi, you kill me. Anybody want to guess which is which? You know. Tina's not alphabetical, we can go.
Good evening, and thank you to the board and to those in attendance. My name is Rick Hoover, fondly known as Coach Rick, and this is Coach Marianne Harris here. I'm standing in for Coach Quintos tonight. She had a previous engagement. I just wanted to start off first with thank you very much for inviting our Methacton field hockey team here tonight and recognizing them for this M Award for their outstanding achievements this past fall. It is an honor to be here. Our coaching staff has had the pleasure of coaching this special group of girls, and they are special, on and off the field. These girls are not just amazing hockey players, they are amazing ladies that have added endless volunteer hours to Cradles to Crowns, Samaritan's Purse, coaching our elementary school kids, and raising over $3,300 for cancer research, just to name a few. They are a true asset to the Methacton community, and we are very proud to say they're ours. Their commitment to each other and us was evident by the season's results they obtained and our eventual Pac-10 championship win. These incredible girls went undefeated their entire season. They scored 99 goals while only letting in 13, and out of our 20 games played, 11 games were shutouts. That shows we're not only strong on offense, but our defense was practically unbreakable. It is a testament to hours of practicing at the high school and extra hours at the club level. The chemistry on this year's team was evident to anyone watching our games, and it is quite an accomplishment to say that out of the 11 players on the field, 8 will be playing field hockey at the Division I level at Ohio State, Drexel, Temple, St. Joe's, Towson, and Harvard. Thank you again for inviting us tonight. This was a season and a group of girls that we will never forget. Just one more side note, this group of girls here in 7th and 8th grade went undefeated entirely in 7th and 8th grade. They scored 89 goals total and only let 1 in. So nobody beat them. We knew this day was coming. So girls, nice job. So right now I'd like to recognize the girls with their M Award. Don't know exactly who all is in attendance. Gretchen Aldifer, are you here? No, probably lacrosse. Rachel Aldifer? No. Caitlin Benton? No. Miranda Boddick? No. Maya Carfagno? Okay. Lizzie Chipman? No. Okay. All right, I know she's here. Rosa Copa, come on down. You can hand it to them, and then they can. Next would be Julia Dickinson. And our unbreakable cage minder, Molly Fry. Next, Hannah Gibbs. Is Mackenzie Henry in the house? No? Okay. Probably lacrosse. I know this person is Grace Hurst. Come on down. I'm sure this one's here. She came with me. Olivia Hoover. Corinne Huber. Alexa Kratz. And her big sister, Jillian Kratz. I know I saw her here, Francesca Lucchese. I'll call their names anyway. Macy McCarthy? No. Kelly O'Donnell? No. I know this one's here. I can see her. Emily Owens. And Lauren Reardon. There you are. I know Riley Smith is lacrosse. I don't think I see her here. And Sarah Woolston. Nope, that's it. Okay, girls, give yourselves a round of applause. You guys did an outstanding job this year. Yeah.
Who's that last?
Okay.
Your teacher's telling you what to do.
Thank you. All right. Good job, girls. Mr. Hoover.
Frankie?
How you doing? My name is Brad Clark. I'm the head coach of the wrestling team here. We had one individual this year that had an outstanding year. This individual is Keyway McNair. Keyway ended his sophomore season with a record of 36-7. He won 2 individual tournaments this year at the Penn Manor and Manheim Central, which are pretty top Pennsylvania teams tournaments. He also ended his season this year as the PAC League champion, District 1 champion, and he took 4th at the regional tournament, which qualified for him for the state tournament. He went 1-2 at the tournament, which means he placed top 15. He had an outstanding season. The best part is he's only a sophomore. And as a sophomore, This athlete here, Kiwe, is remarkable. He's not only a team captain, but his athletic talent is beyond you'll ever see. We look forward to working with him and seeing his progress and hopefully placing him at the top of the podium by his senior year. Our wrestler here with the M Award is Kiwe McNair.
Congrats, buddy.
Congratulations. Before we go on with the rest of the meeting, if anyone cares to adjourn at this time, it would probably be most appropriate. And we'll just give you a couple seconds. If I could ask the board members to join me in the front row, we have a presentation, and that presentation will be the April 2018 update on the Methacton School District Strategic Plan. Good evening. It gives me great pleasure to be before you this evening to give you an update, as we have annually in April, about the progress we're making on the Methacton School District Strategic Plan. So just in brevity, I want you to know that as part of my presentation this evening, I'll be talking about the summary of the process, our focus area updates, and a midpoint review and revision, meaning the recommendation going forward. So if you recall, this is quite a tremendous community effort. Back in 2016, well, 15-16, we had more than about 100 parents and teachers and students participate in helping us prepare this plan. And this is the second annual update on our progress. And please know that this report highlights our efforts on the objectives that we had scheduled for this school term. And there's many other matters that have multiple steps or phases towards the goals, towards goal attainment. Also, I want you to know that where noted, we are on target, or otherwise revisions are labeled at the bottom of each slide. And lastly, as we do annually, the administrative team will review, revise, and add to the plan to address major matters within the district. So as we move on to Focus Area 1, Student Growth, Achievement, and Staff Development, Pupil Services, and Education and Technology, while I don't want to read the entire slide for you this evening, I want to highlight some specific areas that I think are critically important. The first one being that we've compiled the inventory for the whole child supports. And this is really important because when we put this guide together, it's going to be able to help us guide our instructional practices and our interventions. And this is really key so that we have consistency and in process and consistency in intervention across the district at all levels. In addition to that, I want to make sure that the public knows that We've done a lot of work in terms of planning and evaluating where we are as a district with STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And I think we're really at an excellent point where, in conjunction with our Methacton Education Foundation, we're ready to embark in the very near future on an effort that will be similar to our strategic planning efforts for the district, but one that is focused specifically on STEM and where we as a district can take the current practices and things that we're doing inside our district and inside our classrooms on a regular basis and develop them across the district, as well as develop them into a greater capacity to support our students for careers in those fields going forward. And lastly, it's important for me to share that we have had a tremendous work done on our 339 plan, and that's really centered around career development. And the progress on this plan has not only developed, but we've included things like field trips for students to get exposure to certain areas of the world of work. We have created a newsletter. We've used social media to create awareness for both parents and for students. And we're leveraging Naviance, our career development program, to help students and staff support the career development of all of our students. If we move on to the next slide, under Focus Area 2, under Communications and Community Relations, there was a tremendous amount of work done in this area this year as well, but highlighting the fact that we completed a survey and we reviewed the results of that survey. It now allows us to be better informed about what our parents and what our community and what our students think about the types of communications that we have with them and in what formats that is done. So with that information, to move forward, we're going to leverage that to improve our communications. And lastly, related to community relations focus, I think it's important that the community recognize and that I give recognition to both Lower Providence and Worcester Township officials for their cooperation with us in trying to coordinate programs and services that are done and held in our community for our students. So for the longest time, Methacton was running programs in isolation of what Lower Providence would run for students in summer programs, as well as the programs that were run out of the Worcester Township. But through the communication of our coordinator of communications, Ms. Lynch, and a lot of extra sweat and tears, we've gotten to the point where we were able to find a great position to leverage the benefits and the skill sets that are in both of the townships to make it better for our students overall. And we're really pleased to move forward in that direction. Next, I think it's important to look at Focus Area 3. In Focus Area 3, when we talk about safety, operational technology, facilities, and infrastructure, there's a lot here. And I think it's important to recognize that safety is sitting on a slide all by itself. I don't think there's any secret that the recent challenges and unfortunate circumstances in Florida in the past month or so have challenged all of us. Created a different environment for schools, created a different environment for our students, staff, and our leadership. The challenge really is to leverage the data and information that goes into the campus audits and take that information and bring that forward for recommendations towards protocols, procedures, and facilities improvements as indicated. Certainly, we'll be leveraging that information and including that as part of our conversations with our property committee, as well as potentially working those things into our master facilities plan as needed. And then, most importantly, I think that a comprehensive review of all the things that we've learned as a result of the tragedy in Florida will play a part of our administrative retreat this summer, as we always have. But we'll be focusing on how we can take those lessons learned, take our current procedures, do revisions, and implement training for our staff and students so that they're better informed with the safety in schools. Next, on Again, on Focus Area 3, just to focus a little bit on operational technology and facilities, I think it's important to recognize that we were able to adopt the new student information system as one of our goals. While it says it was completed, yeah, we made the implementation, but there's certainly a lot of additional things that we need to do with that. For example, we are still in the phase of trying to figure out when we can incorporate the nursing module into our ebb and flow of the data system. And we're working with our nurses to make sure that we time that and we appropriately move forward. So that may happen in a year, that may happen in 2 years, depending on the work involved there. And there's a number of other things. There's a lot of interoperability matters that are being addressed with other systems. We're certainly trying to leverage the student information system, PowerSchool, for improved communication features, including being able to share lunch balance information, as well as having direct teacher messaging to parents and students, as well as having an application that actually works well on a smartphone. So those are all things that I think are really important. And in addition to that, it really plays a big part in having an efficient schedule. We no more are standing in front of a bunch of whiteboards and moving magnets around to try to schedule our students. That process is come and gone, and leveraging the algorithms built into PowerSchool as other school districts use to schedule will make our schedule more efficient and will make our operation more efficient. Next, on facilities and infrastructure, it's certainly no secret that we've been moving forward with year one work associated with the master plan facilities. We'll likely be starting work tomorrow. I believe is that the case, Mr. Fretz? So work will begin at Arcola tomorrow on the auditorium. We know that there'll be work that'll start at the high school, and then there's some other smaller projects that are approved this evening as part of the board agenda will go into play as well. And we think that this is really the first step in with addressing what many have suggested has been some lack of care towards our facilities over a long period of time. And I think it gives great credence to the board, to the facilities department, and to the folks that helped us deliver and devise this plan, to recognize that a master plan for facilities, so that we at least have a vision and at least have a target for making sure that our facilities are commensurate with the operation that we want to provide for our community. Next, under Focus Area 4, District Operations, Financial Management, and Human Resources, I think it's important to recognize that we've made, under adopting some standards for communications, and certainly finding ways to communicate financial stability and creating a model to work towards. I think that the implementation of the PFM budgeting model has played a great contributing factor to all the work that we've done. We've also created a new budgetary process over the last 2 years, and I think our Director of Business Services, Mr. Bricker, has done a fine job coming up to speed with all those things, as well as adding some additional data and information that's important for the board in making proper financial decisions. So we look to continue this effort. While there's some parts of this complete, I wouldn't say that we're anywhere near full completion on any of these with financial management, and partly due to the fact that we were without a business director for a little bit of time. And I think as we reevaluate what we need to do, I think Mr. Bricker and his team will help us accomplish these goals in a timely fashion. Again, on Focus Area 4, District Operations, Financial Management, and Human Resources, we can see that under District Operations, we want to maximize third-party vendor service agreements. We've made some progress in this area. Certainly, Mr. Bricker in my observation, has dealt extremely well with our largest third-party vendor, First Student. But we're also in the process of getting the rest of those vendor contracts not only digitized but organized so that we can easily manage them and monitor their progress and their compliance to the agreement. In addition to that, we have human resources. There's two focus areas there. I think the most important part out of all of that is that we've created a process to review the job descriptions and the administrative job descriptions, or all the positions that are in the Act 93 agreement, will be coming forward by the end of this fiscal year for review by the board and hopeful adoption. On to the next slide. If we look at Focus Area 5, co-curricular activities, extracurricular activities, and athletics, I can say that Dr. Spiewak, from help from his committee, has been working on closing the loop on the program of extracurricular activities document. That document is designed to outline, from the purpose to the methodologies and the processes and procedures necessary for student groups to have clubs, for the distribution of points, for the responsibilities of the sponsors, and so forth. So Dr. Spiewak has been working on that. I've been working closely with him on that. We plan to have the presentation on that document at the June Education Committee meeting, and if moved forward, we'll probably bring that forward to the full board in June as well. So I have 2 slides left. I have a midpoint. So I want to explain to the board that I think it's really important that while we've certainly made some progress this year and last, I think it's really important that we start re-engaging our community back into the process. While we could certainly wait till the end of the 3rd year, it's my goal to make sure that we make this a community effort. It's not just an administrative effort. It's not just a teacher effort. It's really not just a board effort. I think that the more we have an opportunity to get feedback from the people that we serve, the better off that we'll be. So the general plan is we want to conduct a review and revision, and we want to hold a meeting or meetings in September to try to get to that point. So with that said, we'll certainly prepare and issue a call for participation. We'll certainly reach back to all of those that formally participated, but we certainly want to make sure that parents and other community members that weren't able to participate in the past have an opportunity to participate. So the timeline is as follows. As you can see, in April we'll be providing this presentation. May we'll be creating the invite and getting that information out. And obviously setting dates for September. We'll be doing follow-up and collecting any additional data. So part of this will be understanding some of the background and understanding the things that we've already accomplished and possibly where we want to go after the administrative retreat and any updates. So there's likely in July and August we'll be feeding those people who plan to participate information documents to make sure that they're well apprised so that they're effective in helping us have the conversations necessary in September. And then it's my hope that either by October or November that the plan can be revised and updated, and a summary of that update can be provided to the board at a regular school board meeting, and a full revision of the document be posted back to the district website to use as a way for us to monitor progress towards these goals. With that said, I want to thank you for your time this evening. Again, this will be posted as part of my community conversations. I'll be relaying a lot of this in a message to the community by either the end of this month or early next month. And I appreciate your support and your work on this with me. So if we can return back to the seats. You can stay sitting this time. I haven't put the mic on, but we've been up and down quite a bit here this evening. And that does end the presentations on the agenda for this evening. Are there any questions on any of the presentations that were provided? If not, we can move on to reports. I'll turn it over to the President and we'll move on to reports.
All right, first up we have the Finance Committee, Mr. Earnshaw.
Thank you. The Finance Committee met on April 11th. The meeting was called to order at 6:30 p.m. All committee members, myself, Ms. Cancro, Mr. Navarrete, were in attendance, along with Dr. Zerby and Mr. Bricker. The first item on the agenda was this review of the standard monthly financial reports, which included the list of bills, the Treasurer's report, and the expenditure and revenue reports. We also reviewed the budgetary transfers as well. Mr. Bricker responded to questions received from the committee both at the meeting and prior to the meeting. And the list of bills and the Treasury report and the budgetary transfers are on the agenda for approval at tonight's meeting. Moving into the discussion topics, the first item was a discussion of a proposed refinancing, which is also on the agenda for approval tonight. We'll be refinancing two series of notes, one which is a fixed rate note, which will give us a lower interest rate, and also the variable rate debt that the district has outstanding that will be converted to a fixed rate debt to provide for further savings given the expected rise in interest rates. As part of this refinancing, $800,000 of cash on hand from the capital campaign account related to the Fields project will be used to pay down debt. That was initially borrowed to fund the Fields project. Mr. Bricker presented the copy of our RFP recommendation, which is also on the agenda for approval tonight, along with an update on the RFP process, which also the contract with our waters is on the agenda for approval. Mr. Bricker then reviewed a report he created to track financial spending and receipts relating to the master plan projects. We reviewed the North Montco Technical Career Center budget, which is also on the agenda for approval. Then Dr. Zerby presented information about the healthcare consortium and its status. The key takeaway there was that the participation in the consortium will be evaluated for the 2019-20 school year. Mr. Bricker then reviewed the Montgomery County IU bid summary for the 2018-19 supplies, again on the agenda for approval tonight. And Dr. Zerby reviewed the substitute teacher recommendations with respect to per diem long-term sub rates, a guest teacher program, and increasing the district substitute pool, again on the agenda for approval. We then moved into the end-of-year forecast, which Mr. Bricker reviewed. This was the committee's first look at this forecast, and the forecast prepared at the time showed a favorable variance to budget of $1 million for the 2017-18 school year. This forecast will be updated in future months as we move through the budgeting process. Dr. Zerby provided an update on the early retirement incentive. At the meeting date, there were 10 employees who submitted a letter of intent to retire, and my understanding is that number has increased dramatically. Then Mr. Bricker gave us an update on the budget for the 2018-19 school year, which was presented at the work session last meeting. 3 members of the public then commented during courtesy of the floor. Mr. Andrews asked questions regarding the list of bills and expenditure reports. Dr. Malik commented on the Shenandoah tax assessment, taxes and the impact of children moving into housing in the district, substitute teachers, teacher turnover, staffing levels, and spending increases above the Act 1 index. And Mr. Bickelman commented on proposed special ed positions not included in the budget, the reserve for the Shenandoah tax appeal, the expenditure reports, spending on supplies, staffing levels, and reporting for club activity funds and the athletic fund balances. And finally, the meeting adjourned at 9:54 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Earnshaw. Property Committee, Mr. Navarrete.
The Property and Transportation Committee met on April 9th. The meeting was called to order at 6:30 p.m. It was announced that an executive session of the board was held in the Farina Administration Building that evening prior to the Property Committee meeting for the purpose of discussing matters related to the appraisal of the Audubon Elementary property. In attendance were Mr. Navarrete, Mr. Earnshaw, Mrs. Hull, Mrs. Reese, Dr. Zerby, Mr. Bricker, Mr. Fretz. Also there were Mr. Eric Fry of Dishel Bartle Dooley, Mr. Dan Sakala of Fidavia, and Mr. James Miller of Fidavia. The topics for the evening regarding the Audubon appraisal, Mr. Fry stated that the appraisal for the Audubon property was discussed in executive session and would remain a confidential matter. Under the master plan timeline, the timeline was reviewed, and following discussions from the March meeting, Fidavia has accelerated the timeline by 1 to 2 months for earlier bidding. Mr. Sakala noted that earlier bidding is not always advised. More specifically, the master plan expense summary was reviewed. 2 small expenses that predated the bond issue had been removed, and the adjusted budget column was updated to reflect current bid packages. Mr. Bricker noted that before accounting for the high school roofing bid, the net bond proceeds of $8.328 million exceed our projected spend by only $110,000. More detailed accounting of bond proceeds and capital funds were discussed at the Finance Committee that followed on Wednesday. Under the high school, Mr. Sakala noted that pre-construction meetings for the MEP project at the high school were set for Monday the 16th. And Mr. Sakala and Mr. Fretz reviewed the bids that had been received for the high school roof project. The lowest responsible bid was received from D.A. Nolt of Berlin, New Jersey, in the amount of $898,000, inclusive of alternate one for a TPO membrane system. The other bids were close to the $1.2 million budget figure. Mr. Sakala noted that the roofing consultant Sobek had positive experiences with the low bidder. Under Arcola, Mr. Sakala noted that a pre-construction meeting was also set for Monday the 16th, and the second item had been removed from the agenda. Regarding the windows at Eagleville, scope definition work is underway, both to determine the extent of the gasketing repairs required for the windows and to determine the most economical way to address the incomplete roof drain that was found. Under consideration is resloping the roof and cutting into the building slab to reach the exterior of the building. Under the small bid packages, Mr. Sakala and Mr. Fretz reviewed the scope of the packages that are to be bid for this summer. The committee discussed several small items, including the Arrowhead cooling tower repairs, acoustic ceiling tile replacement due to concerns about addressing the root cause of moisture and leaks, and EFIS repairs at Woodland due to damage from the birds. At Arrowhead, Mr. Sakala presented 2 potential timelines for construction of a new, smaller school on the Arrowhead property, one for September 2020 and the other for January 2021. The cost of a new 75,000 square foot building was estimated at $23.5 million. Given a more complete picture of the timing and a cost of a new building, the committee discussed the relative merits of all potential options: rebuilding on the Arrowhead property, renovations of the existing Arrowhead building, closing Arrowhead and expanding the other elementary schools, and closing Arrowhead and reconfiguring grade levels district-wide. The committee directed the administration to return with a more complete assessment of impacts associated with each of the above options, including financial, programming, and transportation impacts. The assessment is expected to be delivered at the June or July committee meeting. Under transportation, Mr. Bricker discussed the various ride parameters that are being addressed and will be reported back to the committee. Dr. Zerby and Mr. Bricker agreed to provide a schedule of deliverables to the committee at the May committee meeting. Under routing, Mr. Bricker noted the planning is underway for the 2018-19 school year, and the administration is 2 weeks ahead of the schedule in the routing contract. Improvements are already being made to the routing software to eliminate potential error points, such as correcting bell times and eliminating problem roads and cul-de-sacs. Mr. Bricker also noted that the students requiring transportation to non-public schools would be requested to complete a form per Act 372 in order to facilitate planning and minimize the number of unattended stops that drive up transportation costs for the district. Mr. Bricker also advised the committee of a revised parking plan proposal for Methacton High School. The changes include a first-come, first-served assignment of numbered spaces for the full year instead of the current alternating Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday, Thursday half-year plans. Also include an increase in fee from $5 to $75 with a $50 discount for students willing to give up their seat on the bus for the year. The new plan is being implemented primarily to reduce transportation costs,
by first eliminating riders for whom seats must be reserved but do not actually ride the bus, then subsequently reducing the number of required routes. Dr. Zerbe and Mr. Bricker are revisiting the plan and will advise the committee of the final decision. Dr. Zerbe also noted that the postings for the program coordinator position had not yielded the quality of candidates that were desired. Mr. Bricker is working with Dr. Sosnovic to revise the language in the posting to better target the desired skills. During courtesy of the floor, John Andrews of Lower Providence expressed concern that the district is not closing in on the scope of the problems with the Eagleville windows. Like the discussion from the committee ranking the needs of our elementary buildings, he expressed concern that some of the $100 million master plan spending should be coming from the general fund and not borrowed capital funds, and stated that the MEA contract is saddling the district economically, and expressed concern that the October 2016 Malona-McBroom enrollment study did not capture the impact of new development projects in the district, such as the Superior 2 development and others in Worcester. Joe Bickelman of Audubon supported grade reconfiguration in place of renovations or construction at Arrowhead. He does not want full-day kindergarten to be the driver for building decisions because he believes that everyone catches up by third grade. He commented on the economic impacts of the MEA contract, commented on multiple transportation concerns, including kindergarten busing irregularities, believes that capital expenditure should be focused on items that extend the life of the buildings, and would like the district to stop saving for field replacement, instead using the fund balance for a one-time expenditure. Jim Mollick of Worcester commented on the administration and board support, or lack thereof, for closing 2 elementary schools in the last year, asked about principal input on closing schools, and stated that the existing 5-year enrollment projections are good enough for the board to make decisions. Paul Winters of Lower Providence asked about whether the Arcola Gymnasium roof was part of the summer master plan work. It is not, and commented on potential grade reconfiguration at Arcola, reminding the committee that part of the original Arcola building is now part of Skyview. The meeting was adjourned at 8:40 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Navarrete. And now Education Committee, Ms. Reese.
The Education Committee met on April 4th and we called to order at 7:47 due to a special meeting prior to that meeting. The committee was all in attendance except Dr. Katona because of the change of date or the holiday on Monday. First discussion topic was a thorough review by Dr. Sosnovic of the issue, of the substitute issue, including available leave to Methacton teachers, how substitutes are assigned, teacher certification, substitute count, Montgomery County fill rate, and Methacton fill rate. Recommendations include increasing the daily and the LTS rate, increasing amount of district substitutes from 4 to 7, and adding a guest teacher program, all of which we discussed at length last week and is on the agenda this evening. Textbooks for approval. As of April 4th, 10 books are on display, and no one from the community has reviewed it. Dr. Katona will fill us in before we vote this evening to approve those. Kindergarten registration update. Again, this is something that changes, but there was 209 kindergarten registrants, is that the correct word? Yes. As of 4/4, and 48 at Arrowhead, 39 at Eagleville, 70 at Woodland, and 52 at Worcester. School year was next. Plans are well on the way. The first group of ESY students are finished by April, being identified, dealing with transportation, etc. The second group is in progress and will be complete by May. Classes will take place at Skyview Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 7/10 to 8/10, July 10th to August 10th, and approval for staff will be at a future board meeting. Dr. Engstad filled us in on the mental health program that occurred in the district on March 28th. It was not very well attended. 28 RSVP'd and 12 attended. However, it was a very successful event because many who participated reached out to the district and/or the agencies directly. The district would like to thank the following agencies who participated: Central Behavioral Services, Montgomery County Department of Health, and Magellan. The district is happy to report that the K-6 SAP, or Student Assistant Program, will be ready for full implementation for the 18-19 school year. Thank you for the assistance from Maria Marcakis, I probably said that wrong, from Carson Valley Children's Aid. A Power School update was given. Report cards, high school master schedule, bus boss, and the cafeteria have all been synchronized or generated via Power School. Naviance is next. During a future meeting, a Power School first-year review will be given. An enrollment report was reviewed, as always. Courtesy of the floor, Erica Sabinski appreciates the district trying to rectify substitute situation. There have been 3 times this year alone her child's class was without a substitute. She added that guest teachers sound like a great idea. Joe Bickelman concerned about capacity and not just enrollment. He does not think the district should build a new school, especially because he said Skyview not needed. He suggested we look at Colonial's grade configuration. He added that the district should look at teachers' attendance and address during their evaluations in relation to the sub shortage. He found the mental health program to be positive and suggests we provide people with a card identifying resources. Jim Mollett questioned enrollment in Arrowhead, stated going from 267 to 407 is deceiving because it's due to closing Audubon. The committee responded with, of course that's why enrollment numbers changed. He is concerned that the property committee is discussing plans around Arrowhead. District responded that we are in discussion and questioning phase and that no actions have been taken as of yet. Megan Fitzgerald supplied her comments via email. She was happy to see the recommendation to increase substitute pay and stated aggressive is good because it will get the substitutes' attention. She suggested considering a higher pay rate for hard-to-fill subjects and reaching out to local graduate programs and let them know about the guest teacher program. Grad students already have their bachelor's. Thinking outside the box with training session and teacher shadowing is fantastic. She also wrote that she was wondering what the absentee rate is among Methacton teachers compared to local districts. She thinks 5 personal days is a lot. Finally, public comments about board members' property and children is getting creepy and not a good use of anyone's time. She doesn't know what can be done, but it's very frustrating. She included that the Education Committee was a great meeting. We adjourned at 9:45.
Thank you, Ms. Reese. Policy Committee, Ms. Hall.
The Policy Committee met on Thursday, April 19th. The meeting was called to order at 6:30 p.m. with all committee members in attendance, myself, Ms. Aubrey Larsonis, Mr. Earnshaw, Mr. Ryan, Dr. Zerby, as well as Mr. Fry. The committee moved 9 policies to first read and present 4 committee profiles for review tonight. Some policies had minor modifications, but the committee requests the board to review policy 903 specifically. We incorporated most of the recommendations from the current PSBA version. We believe that revised wording would allow the board to accept public comment on board action items as well as courtesy of the floor at the beginning of the meeting, with the understanding that a participant would waive their time at the end of the meeting. We believe this would give an opportunity to individuals that wanted to address an issue without having to stay for the entire duration of the meeting. We are also asking for a change in the length of time during public comment on board action items and courtesy of the floor. The change is from 3 to 4 minutes per individual. That is consistent with many policies within Montgomery County and was, given the length of board agendas, was seen as appropriate. The committee is holding 2 policies to the May meeting, 814 and 817. For handbooks, we have a template created. The elementary handbook draft will be available for next month's meeting. And Dr. Zerby noted the Code of Conduct needs annual adoption and will be brought forward at a future meeting, but prior to the start of the school year. In old business, we had discussion on policy 141, which was school-related organizations and the wording of the deadlines for proposed budgets. An amendment was made and the policy is included tonight for first read. And during courtesy of the floor, Dr. Mollett commented on policy 903 in reference to time limits, the value of public input, the inconsistency in application of time limits, and the PSBA options for taking public comment. The meeting adjourned at 8:43 p.m.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Intermediate unit, Mr. Winters.
Thank you. The intermediate board met on March 28th in Norristown. Generally, the agenda is, I would say, nondescript. The main issue was, or the highlight, I would say, is a $20.7 million student services budget that had no change, was up for approval and approved. I would like to highlight some of the community and government relations update. On the federal side, in March, there was a House Bill 4909, which is Stop School Violence Act of 2018. That was passed and included in the federal budget on March 23rd to keep the federal government running through September. There was actually an increase to the fiscal year 18 related to the Department of Education, bringing up nearly $4 billion. Highlighted in that is $300 million increase for Title I and $700 million for Title IV, among other things. The $700 million increase in Title IV is targeted for school safety and student supports and is meant to expand the school-based mental services, provide professional development and crisis management, and cover school-based violence prevention and bullying prevention. On the state side, the governor in mid-March has asked for a task group that would include government officials, education, law enforcement, community members, et cetera, teachers. The priorities of the task force include hearing from school officials, determining additional funding needs for the Office of Safe Schools, Security and Personnel, examining effectiveness of student support and fiscal mental health programs, and strengthening information and best practice sharing among local schools. In addition, examining new and existing tools to ensure easy and effective reporting of suspicious activity to law enforcement. Also on the state side in the redistricting, despite some appeals, we do have redistricting in Pennsylvania. Now there will only be 13 counties that will be split between 2 or 3 districts. Montgomery County, which was split into 5 districts, has no member of Congress who actually resides in the county. On the Pennsylvania revenue side, the general fund is actually 12.8% more than anticipated at this point. There is a House Bill 638 that is being sponsored by Mr. Simmons from Lehigh, Montgomery, and Northampton County to remove the ability of school board candidates to cross-file nominations across Pennsylvania. There are some other bills I won't highlight too much here, but in the executive session, the State Senate Government Committee approved Senate Bill 1078, amending the Sunshine Law to allow an emergency preparedness exception. This exception would add an executive session may be held to discuss, plan, or review matters and records that are deemed necessary for emergency preparedness, protection of public safety, and security of all property in a manner that is discussed would be reasonably likely to jeopardize or threaten public safety or public protection. The bill is now poised to go to the full Senate. And 2 others, real quick. House Bill 1213 seeks to prohibit school districts from exercising their right to file reverse assessment appeals. In June 17, the House adopted an amendment proposed by Representative Harper that applied the restrictions on tax restriction appeals due to homestead, farmstead properties and removed the retroactivity and other negative aspects. That may be more of an editorial. So Representative Warren Camp is promoting the reversal of this amendment so the bill reverts to its initial form, and I think that is still percolating. And the last one, which was interesting to me here, was the health quorum as we're looking at health care next year. Currently, there's a bill being developed by the Senate that would require school districts to join a regional health consortium if they do not already belong to one, and would create a board to oversee that system. The goal would be to identify options and plans appropriate to each region. There is a renewed interest in moving this out of the Senate Education Committee, as health care and cost appears to be a major factor in teacher contracts across the Commonwealth. And in fact, thank you. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Winters. Northmont Co-Technical Career Center, I believe, Ms. Reese, you're giving that in this month?
We met on April 16th, and it was a very productive and positive meeting. First up was the PA skill competition in Hershey was last weekend. 44 students participated. There was several winners, and I want to make sure I have the correct names and everything for you for the next meeting, but there were several first and second place winners. NOC testing, which is very important testing in that building, is how they receive their certifications, occurred today. The National Technical Honor Society members are being honored on Thursday at 6 p.m., April 26th at 6 p.m. And if anyone would like to mark their calendars, the Senior Expo, which is when the seniors present their projects, is May 17th at 6 p.m. Possibly the biggest news of the evening was we approved a new director and assistant director at the Tech Center, and I was part of the interview process, and I'm thrilled with the hiring, well, it's really not hiring because they're both internal, but the promotions of Gina Partovich from assistant director to head director, and Robert Lasavita, who does all the special programming and the grants, to be the assistant director. We thank Dr. Amuso, who, as of, I think, the end of this week, who was the retired Solderton superintendent who was helping us out in the meantime while we looked for a new person. His help was invaluable with the transition, and we thanked him. In addition, the Solderton superintendent, Frank Gallagher, has just agreed to stay on for one more year. The 5 sending schools usually take turns, but sometimes it's better for someone to do 2 years, and he has agreed to do that. So that's very helpful to all the other districts and keeps some stability with a new director. The calendar was approved, and for the first time in, I think, ever, but don't quote me on that, the same day for all 5 sending students is the same. All 5 sending districts will be able to start on Wednesday, August 29th, which makes their lives over there much easier for the students and staff. And by chance, their last day of school is also June 14th, so it's a good calendar year for them. And lastly, we approved Fox Rothschild as the Tech Center's solicitor. And it was of note because it's 40 years they've been been the solicitor for that school, and different solicitors take turns, but on that evening it was Jeff Sultanic's turn. And I know I have publicly, before being a board member, spoke somewhat negatively and/or questioned why we hired him to help us, and I just thought it really needed to be made mention that on April 16th he has attended 8,923 board meetings, which is pretty remarkable. He has quite a lot of experience in this county, and he has helped the Tech Center in many school districts in this area. And he was there for all those 40 years. That's how that number came about. So I did want to let you all know that. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Ms. Reese. And now our student board representatives report. Ms. McNichol?
The Methacton Art Show is coming up. It is May 4th, 6 to 9 p.m., May 5th, 12 to 4 p.m., and May 6th, 12 to 3 p.m. This will be held in the library here at Methacton High School. There are also many spring concerts to look forward to. April 25th, the Methacton High School Orchestra will be performing. The MHS Chorale will be performing May 10th, and the MHS Band will be performing May 15th. All of these will begin at 7:30 and are in the Methacton Auditorium. Lastly, prom is this Friday, the 27th, for all Methacton High School juniors and seniors, and post-prom will be held that Friday, the 27th, as well, into the 28th. The community walkthrough that will be that Friday night and will begin at 6:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McNichol. And communications, Ms. Lynch.
Working in partnership with AAA and the Methacton High School Post-Prom Committee, we're proud to welcome Sarah Pansall Evans to Methacton High School tomorrow. On August 23rd, Sarah's unfortunate decision to drive drunk left her incapacitated, on life support, and without a left arm. Drawing from the physical and emotional pain of that near-death experience, Sarah will deliver a speech that focuses on communicating the possible consequences of underage drinking, helping kids make smarter decisions, respecting parents, and using life's challenges to discover a bigger and better purpose. Her message resonates well with teens and parents, and her deeply personal presentation describes how she nearly lost her life to poor decisions about alcohol, but subsequently discovered a new purpose in preventing young adults from making her same mistakes. And so that presentation will be followed by the post-prom party on Friday, and as Mrs. Nickel mentioned, the walkthrough will be from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. So we want to thank AAA and the post-prom for working with the high school to bring Ms. Penzall Evans to the school. Also taking place this weekend on Saturday evening is the inaugural Planetarium Star Party from 6:30 to 10 p.m. The community is invited to visit the Arcola Malon Planetarium to take part in a series of events, including planetarium shows, a scale solar system hike, a moon phase demo, space-themed STEM activities, sunset, twilight, and solar viewing, and telescopes that the district appreciates having the ownership of due to grants will be on hand to explore and observe. And Mr. Chantry will lead a star talk under the actual stars at 9:30 p.m. Details are on the district's website and social media. I also wanted to make mention that the Methacton Education Foundation's new website will launch tomorrow, and graduation signs, which were a huge hit last year, lawn signs will go on sale starting tomorrow. And so it's at www.methactonfoundation.org if you want to mark your bookmarks now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lynch. I wanted to also mention that if there's anyone out there who has never been to the post-prom walkthrough that's offered on Friday evening, I would highly recommend that you do it. It's a pretty amazing undertaking that our community endeavors, and this year, for the first time that I'm aware of, our board actually was able to contribute, and so we all took shifts volunteering and working on a mural. So if you go and check it out, you can look for the hallway that the board worked on. And Superintendent's report, Dr. Zerbe.
Just for the record, I don't do decorating, but I am there Saturday morning for the cleanup. I've been there for 4 straight years, and it's a lot of work, but it is a great event, and I wouldn't miss participating in the way that I can contribute. So with that, my report, it gives me great pleasure to state that both Methacton High School and Arcola Intermediate School recently participated in the 70th Annual Delaware Valley Science Fair. In participating in this proud Methacton tradition, the winning high school students set a record this year for prizes, awards, and scholarships, earning more than $400,000. As if that was not enough, 3 students from Methacton will be advancing to the International Science and Engineering Fair in May, among the only 4 representatives in all Montgomery County in a field of 16 picked from the competition. We wish congratulations and best of luck to Jonathan Chang and Adam Zhang, first place in team projects. Cancer, and the title of the project is Cancer, Liquid Biopsy, and Precision Medicine. I'm not sure what that is. And Karthik Yanesh, first place in mathematics, braid groups on triangulated surfaces and singular homology. I really don't know what that is. But these are obviously some pretty outstanding students and pretty outstanding projects. Members of the board may recall that Karthik holds the distinct honor of having the #1 mathematics research project in the world, having won at last year's International Fair for his paper on the homotopy theory of parameterized objects. We look forward to recognize all the winners at the May board meeting. It's such a great accomplishment, and I got to say, we certainly owe some credit not only to our students' parents, but to our teachers for guiding them in through this process. So we're really fortunate here in Methacton. And this is just an example of why we need to continue developing the STEM program. So not only to allow these students to continue to foster, but also getting more students involved in the process. So I thank you and the board for their support on that. And lastly, I want to make an announcement that under new business on the agenda, that the item will read as follows. To approve waiver agreements for the following students: student ID 230733, student ID 6396940515, and student ID 530690570. That ends my report.
Thank you, Dr. Zerbe. At this time, we'll take public comment on board action items. And again, we ask if you could just mention which action item you're speaking on, and if possible, we will address your comments or questions when we get to that item in the agenda. Mr. Andrews.
Good evening, John Andrews, Lower Providence. You have 42 action items on the agenda as I counted them, and I'd like to speak to 4 of those. On the list of bills, I'm troubled that where there is repair services and the like in the facilities area, 5 of those firms are from Berks County. The last I knew, Methacton is not in Berks County. We're in Montgomery County, and I think that there are Montgomery County service vendors that deserve consideration. With regard to the hiring of a German teacher for the Arcola and high schools, I don't feel that the administration has given adequate justification for that addition. I continuously hear of manufacturing facilities in the county that can't find qualified people, and I don't think that languages are high up on their list of qualifications, and Montgomery County is the one county with the highest number of manufacturing jobs in the Commonwealth. Somehow I think that we need to give more effort to training people for careers in the corporations that offer jobs in this county. With regard to long-term subs, the detail in the presentation say that some of the subs will be paid according to Step 1 in the salary schedule. There's no Step 1 in the salary schedule. The bottom step in the salary schedule currently is Step 2. With regard to the elementary and secondary substitute teacher shortage, I believe that there should be a differential between substitutes, differential pay going to elementary school teachers and secondary teachers. I think the secondary teachers typically are more qualified in specialized subjects, and they deserve pay for their efforts to become highly qualified. With regard to the retiree teachers substituting...
Mr. Andrews, please wrap up.
You seem to limit to retirees from Methacton. You know, we may have numbers of retirees from the Hill School, from Lower Merion, from Radnor, for instance, and I would think that they're all equally qualified and deserve consideration, and perhaps there should be communications also that encourage them to give a try here. And I would suggest holding off on guest teachers.
Mr. Andrews, please wrap up.
I would ask you to consult with your solicitor as to whether reasonable time is given as directed by the Sunshine Act of the Commonwealth.
Mr. Andrews, our current policy states 3 minutes. I'd ask you to please wrap up.
Your policy is defective.
Our current policy states 3 minutes. I'd ask you to please wrap up.
Your policy is defective, Ms. Timekeeper.
Mr. Andrews, that's quite enough. Please take a seat.
With regard to policy...
Mr. Andrews, your time is up. Please take a seat.
I object, and I ask for a vote of the board to back you up or not to back you up. And that is in the policy, I believe.
No, Mr. Andrews, I'm sorry, but we've given you sufficient time to speak. I'd ask you to please sit down.
You have not given me sufficient time, ma'am.
Mr. Andrews, our current policy states 3 minutes.
You're insulting to the public.
I'm sorry you feel that way. Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Dr. Malik.
Jim Malik, Worcester. Regards to Board Policy 903, first of all, with regards to the minutes, I think you guys need to get a camera into the committee rooms, because the minutes don't accurately reflect what happens in the rooms. I don't have time to get into the specifics. I'd like to thank the committee for generously recommending the extra minute of time to the public. Also like to thank the chair of the policy committee for confirming that option 1 of PSBA's policy 903 required public comment on each and every action item and is basically identical to the current written board policy, and that was the reason that it was being changed. With that being in mind, you continue to violate board policy 903 and have been doing so for the last 2 years. And getting back to the minutes, I guess the chair failed to mention in the minutes that it was my suggestion to put into place a policy for board violation of board policy. I mentioned that at the end of the meeting, if you remember. But that wasn't in the minutes. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Some of the comments made at the meeting were Dr. Zerbe said, there's a challenge, whatever length of time there is, it puts you as president in a bad spot. Well, you know, what's challenging about the public? You know, I don't get it, to be honest with you. You know, I mean, you know, we're just a bunch of people here who want to give comments. Chairman Larseny's mentioned they'd be comfortable, or she'd be comfortable if there was a better mechanism to enforce the public comment period. Well, you know, that's about as out of control as you're going to get, and everything went well. I don't think you have anything to worry about. Mr. Ryan said, as an audience member, it forced him to decide what's most important, be concise, be direct, getting it in 3 minutes. Well, you know, why don't you guys try it? Because, you know, last month, the minutes you guys are going to approve, that was a 5-hour and 4-minute meeting. And the public took 29 minutes of your time. Why don't you guys try doing the same thing? 5 hours. Try looking at a video. Sit in front of your video of that meeting for 5 hours. I challenge you. And see what we got to look at for 5 hours. Go sit in front of the video for 5 hours. See if you can do it.
Dr. Malik, I do ask you to keep your comments related to voting items.
Well, this is policy 903, right? And you're talking about us. So I'm saying we're not the problem, okay? We feel that public comment's important. Important enough that if you guys had listened to me back when Skyview was being built, $40 million wouldn't have been wasted.
Okay, Dr. Malik, your time is up.
Sure. Let me just say one more thing. I've been making comments to the property committee about Arrowhead, and we went from no redistricting and closure to having it back on the table. So,
Dr. Malik, that's not a voting item for this evening.
Well, no, I'm talking about the board policy, 903.
But the policy is also not up for a vote this evening.
Board policy 903 is on the for first reading.
For first reading, it's not up for a vote. There will be no vote taken on first reads this evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Bickelman.
Joe Bickelman, Audubon. I'd just like to speak to item number 10C, the hiring of the German teacher. This is a new position, and at the meetings where this was discussed, there wasn't a whole lot of data shared with the board members there as far as enrollment, number of sections at the high school as far as German goes. There was no issue brief stating the objectives or anything like that, so there was no data. I heard a lot of stuff like, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head was said a lot. So there was no justification for the expansion of the German program to include an honors course in German. What I did hear to justify the position a lot was this was to make it equitable compared to the other languages that are offered there. I heard that a lot. I really didn't see any numbers, I didn't see any sections, I didn't see anything, any reports, any paper that was discussed. Nobody was holding anything of any data to make the recommendation to substantiate your decision tonight. So I think in this, this time of tightening our belts, I think adding a new position with no justification, and I think there's a policy on what you have to have as a board in order to make decisions to expand or hire new positions. I've seen that in some analysis that Mr. Andrews did. I believe there's a policy to that. So I don't think you should make a decision on this till you're provided all the information, or if you're going to discuss that later on as far as the numbers go. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment on board action items? Okay, let's move on to our action items. May I have a motion to approve the combined work session and regular board meeting minutes for the meeting held on March 27th, 2018, and the special meeting minutes held on April 4th, 2018 as attached? Can I have a second? Any comments from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. Fiscal items. Mr. Bricker.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight for your approval is the list of bills, the Treasurer's Report, budgetary transfers, the North Monco Technical Career Center budget for 2018-2019, the district copier services, the district auditor services, the general supplies bid awards, and the bond resolution, as well as the master plan projects.
Do I dare try to take all of these in one vote? No.
Say no.
Okay. All right, let's start with, I think I've been in a few of these meetings, so let's go with, can I have a motion to approve the list of bills, the treasurer's report, and the budgetary transfers as presented? Okay, we'll start with that. So we've got a first from Mr. Ryan and a second from Mr. Navarette. Any comments on these items? Mr. Earnshaw.
Just one question that, just follow what Mr. Andrews said. When we're hiring vendors for repairs or anything else, do we look at location, or are we looking at, is that a consideration, or is it always who can give us the best price at, for the best service? If you or Mr. Fretz could possibly elaborate on that.
Well, from the RFPs that we've done mainly the local ones and the ones that can service our abilities the best. With regard to an example with the auditor RFP, there were some in Allentown area, and there were some in Montgomery County. It just came down to which was the best suited for the school district. It had really no definition as to where they were located.
Again, there's different processes and different methodologies for us making certain determinations. So, for example, in the auditor process, we may think that having some locality and understanding of the district is a little bit different than just single best price. And I know from Mr. Fretz, however, the work that he does is singularly out to find the best price. He gets 3 quotes for the matters. He gets to take the lowest price. It just happens to be in Berks County, Lancaster, or else, and not necessarily in our backyard. If they give us the best price, we would go with them.
Any other comments? Okay. All those in favor of the motion as presented? Okay. The motion carries 9-0. All right. So let's see. Can we get a motion to approve the Northmont Co-Technical Career Center budget, the district copier services, the district auditor services, and the general supplies bid awards? Okay. And a second? Any comments?
Yeah, Kim, I just want to thank the Finance Committee for putting the RFP out for the auditor services. I do think we need to change the auditors on a regular basis to give us a different view, so I'm glad, and it's actually going to save us some money also, but it's something that we've been asking for in the Finance Committee a couple of years, so thank you to those involved.
I have a question about the auditor service. I was wondering if that includes audit services for the coordinating council as required by the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue?
It does not include, in the price, it does not include that service, but it was brought up in the interview with the vendor that we're selecting, and they can perform those services for us. But depending on the amount of that work, there'll likely be an additional fee for that work.
Any other comments? Mr. Earnshaw?
Just a question on the amount for the copier services changed favorably, but I will still ask if there's what drove that.
So we had a late revision to one of the RFPs based on the advice of the solicitor. We went back to the three lowest bids that we had and asked them for a final and best offer. Based on the bids that came in and the advice of the technology department, the price actually was reduced by about $8,000 from Fraser, and therefore we're still continuing to recommend them as the choice for tonight.
But in resoliciting that, we met all the legal requirements that we had to do as far as any notices or anything along those lines?
Yes, you went with the three lowest and had those basically just to fine tune and sharpen their pencils, so you're fine.
Any other comments or questions on these items? Okay. All those in favor of approving items D through G? Okay, the motions carry. Can I have a motion to approve the Bond Resolution 18-04 for the Methacton School District 2018 General Obligation Bonds Parameters Refunding as presented? Mr. Winters, and a second. Mr. Earnshaw. Any comments?
Just one question. I see we have an updated one in front of us here. Any significant changes from last week in terms of the parameter resolution here?
No, there's not.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. All those in favor of approving the motion as presented? Okay, the motion carries. Can I have a motion to approve the 2018 Master Plan Capital Projects items 1 through 4 as presented here? Okay. And can I have a second? Any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of approving the motion as presented? Passes 9-0. Item J. Oh, I'm sorry, there is no item J. We're moving on to personnel items. It was the bottom of my page, I apologize. Dr. Sosnovic.
We're all paying attention.
Thank you. I'm glad you're all paying attention. Dr. Sosnovic, it's on to you.
Good evening and thank you. For the board's consideration tonight, we have 3 resignations classified. 1, employment professional for a new position. 1, uncompensated leave professional. 3, uncompensated leave classified. 1, approval for foregoing a sabbatical commitment. We have 8 supplemental contracts, and I do want to point out, per last meeting when Mr. Earnshaw did question about the assistant football coaches, and I gave pause, further follow-up with Dr. Spiewak. It should be reflected as the next school year. Any actions that the football coaches are doing in this current school year is on their own volunteer time. We have the winter coaches' extended pay, as well as the volunteers for your approval tonight.
Okay, is there anyone that would like to take any of these personnel items A through M separately?
C, please.
Okay. Any others? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the personnel items A through M with the exception of C as presented here on the agenda? Can I have a second? Okay, any comments on items A, B, and D through M? Mr. Winters.
I just have a question, Troy. Some of the resignations, and not necessarily on this one, but some of the resignations on the staff level are occurring in the middle of the year. Can you help me understand the principle of not, is there any requirement to have them see through the end of the year as much as possible?
Yeah, by school code, we can hold them for a certain length of time, up to 60 days. Beyond that, we don't have any ability to hold them. Most of the time, individuals leaving, especially if they're professionals, will always extend us that courtesy due to they wanting the rest of the school year, for the students that they're leaving to be successful as it was when they were there. So beyond the school code of that time frame, we don't have any ability to hold them.
Any other comments or questions on these board action items? Mr. Earnshaw.
Could you clarify what you just said about the football coaches? So is this for the 18-19 school year?
Yes, so it would be effective for the 18-19 school year, and I wanted to highlight that because and make this change, because if approved, we would have been approving them to be paid for the amounts shown in this school year, and that's not accurate. This is for the fall program football. And as new staff have come aboard, through the transition of our previous football coach, these individuals were requested to be placed on the agenda at this time by Dr. Spiewak so that they can start to do the many different things that they do in preparation for next year's season. So typically we would put these on in the fall. However, as requested by Dr. Spiewak to place them on, there was no harm in doing so now moving forward, so they can do that work with the students, through summer practices and stuff like that.
So this is approving them to work on the program in preparation for the fall. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just stating what I think my understanding is. So they're not getting paid these amounts here until the fall.
That's correct. The first payout is in September, the second in October, and the third is in November. They will not receive anything from the district in terms of payment until that time.
All right. Does this need to be revised then, just to state that, what they're actually doing for the 17-18 school year? The fact that they're just...
I think the option could be that the challenge is we want to make sure that they're approved as employees so that they meet all that they're shown that they met all the qualifications to work with our students. So we certainly can revise it, but the intent is to get them working with students and to know that they are approved for those stipends and in those positions in the future, which will allow them now to work with those students. So the idea, again, try to explain this by being approved for next year, gives them the indication that they can volunteer now, knowing that they have the job for next year. Because we don't normally do it this way, and the reason is we had the turnover of the entire staff in the football program. There's how many? 7 or 8? There's like 7 or 8 staff members related to football. It's the largest staff. In order to allow them to start working with the students, we need to give them some assurance that they're going to be working and being paid with us.
Okay. That was my confusion, because I know in around July, there's a big list of all the sports supplemental contracts, and that's why I was getting a little confused about why these two are on here now. So are these two then not district employees currently?
That's currently, yeah.
They're not district employees.
They are not district employees, and as Dr.
So this is authorizing them to work in the district, and they've gone through all the clearances and all that stuff that we would require. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Are we going to be looking outside the district at times for other sports? I know sometimes we have to. And that can be part of the June presentation by Dr. Spiewak. But, we went outside for the head coach, understood, you go internally, but I would like that to be part of Dr. Spiewak's presentation in June. I would like to know about all the staffing of the extracurricular activities.
Duly noted.
Any other comments on these personnel items? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, the motion carries. That approves A, B, and D through M. Now, can I have a motion to approve the employment of a new position for a German teacher at Arcola and Methacton High School as presented this evening? Okay, can I have a second? Okay, and comments?
I can address some of what Mr. Bickelman said, because I was there and part of the conversation. And Mr. Bickelman is correct in some of what he said. There wasn't a full sheet and pages of data. It was explained that we cannot run the program with one teacher due to the fact that children are taught 7 through 12. And there was a large discussion about adding honors due to the interest in the program. And so there was discussion. There was not, as Mr. Bickelman stated, a huge data presentation. But as the program stands now, and with the addition of honors, we can't just have one teacher, is how it was explained and discussed in committee. There might need to be, other people might need to give more clarification if anyone has questions, but just wanted to let you know. Sure.
It's real simple. Either we hire another instructor or we eliminate the German offering at the Arcola Intermediate School, and we will not be able to offer all the courses that we have or add this additional offering that we're suggesting. So it is a choice for the board. I mean, I can go grab data, but nonetheless, what we have is a choice. We can close the program at Arcola, and we can, limit the number of offerings in German at the high school, which will likely, knowing our students, will likely have the program eliminated within a number of years, only because of they won't be able to get the quality points associated with they would need for their academic record. So that's the information that we provided in general. If you have questions on that, I'd be glad to answer them.
So I will say that I did not particularly have a lot of questions about this because of my personal knowledge of the German program and the need for this teacher. That said, I do think that it would be a best practice for us moving forward to have a more fully developed and better rationale and data presented around the justification of creating a position like this. I don't question for a moment the need for this position, but I do think that it's important as a general practice that we have more data to support a decision like this.
If I can just mention, because I did mention in March that we currently have 2 full sections at Arcola, like 22 and 23 each. We also have about 19 or 20 students in each of the current levels 2, 3, 4 at the high school. And again, adding the honors, we currently have 1 teacher, so clearly we can't have 1 teacher take on that in addition to. We have had conversation, and I know the question was asked about, are we doing them all? And that is the intention, to put them all in, to offer them all. I have had conversations around, of course, if we don't have the numbers, that we're going to have to make whatever adjustments are necessary then. But that's where we are with the numbers at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Cadena. That's helpful.
And thank you, because your memory is better than mine. So I do remember specifically the full classes.
I was there. I thought March was very thorough, to be honest with you. I do believe you explained it in March, and then we brought it up again to another meeting. I see that number is going to be carried up from Arcola. The teacher wasn't capable of covering both Arcola and the high school, and we needed it. So I thought it was, definitely the numbers are there.
And I neglected to put some of the things in my minutes, which I had addressed publicly at a meeting, because it wasn't a specific agenda item. It did get combined with textbooks. So that's where some of the confusion lies, and that's why we appreciate your questions.
Mr. Earnshaw.
My concerns on this and why I asked for this to be separated out are really tied to something that we first started discussing, well, maybe not first, but when it really started getting discussed at the Finance Committee meeting, as well as the last work session, around overall staffing levels and where we are as a district and the need to reduce staff if they're reduce excess staff. And addressing the budget issues that are presented on that 5-year forecast. Those numbers with big numbers with brackets around them. So my view is that until that overall plan gets addressed and kind of gets put in place, I have a concern with adding staff anywhere. So that's kind of where I stand and why I asked for this to be broken out separately.
Are there any other comments on this before we vote? Mr. Winters.
And I respect that. Brian certainly would like to see that staffing, I guess, in my mindset, and I know they'll probably I'll take bullets for this later on. Language requirement is usually a requirement for post-education. So if we determine to move away from the German program at some point, it's probably going to be replaced with an additional staff and another language. So it's about the offering. To me, at the long run, I don't see that this would be a savings. But it's probably too much of a leap, but I will support this from that aspect.
Yeah, and just to add to Paul's comments, this is the point where we make decisions about what we want to be as a school district. Do we want to cut just to cut to make numbers match on paper? Do we want to cut smartly? Do we want to encourage our children when they're in programs that they see and like and want to be a part of? Here we've got 2 full sections at Arcola that are ready to burst into the high school. They're excited about German. They want to take classes. These are the kinds of things that we should be expanding and expanding our offering on, right, where we make cuts in places where maybe there isn't that kind of interest. So, yeah, I think this is important. I'll support it.
And I do agree with that, but I guess what I hear Mr. Earnshaw saying is that it's more of a philosophical objection than it is to an objection to this particular position, that you'd like to see the whole rationale and staffing model broken out before we move forward with any hiring, not necessarily this position.
Not necessarily philosophical. It's it's timing.
Okay.
So
Yes.
let's see the overall plan.
I guess what I meant was
and how
that
we
you
get
don't
to
object
need
to
be.
this particular position, it's just the timing of this position and the lack of the data that you wanted to have before it.
I don't know.
Okay.
And therein lies the issue.
Okay. I'll stop trying to clarify for you and let you do it then.
The point is solid, though. The point is solid about the amount of data that we receive as a board to justify the decisions that we make. And I'll dare say in a lot of cases it's insufficient. And especially when, listen, I know at the property committee, when we have our marathon 5-hour committee meetings, there is a ton of information that gets discussed. Fortunately, a lot of that data comes back to the board because there are documents that are being prepared by Fidavia. But I think in cases like this, it would be helpful just to have, even everything you just said, Mary, I totally agree and I support it. I think it would just be helpful to have that on a piece of paper that we can reference back to, just because we see so much different information that comes across our desk. It'd be helpful to have that just on paper.
I agree. All right, so is there any other comments before we take a vote on this? All those in favor of the employment of Rhiannon Kaflish as presented here this evening? Okay, so the motion carries 8 to, I'm assuming, 1 against. Okay, 8 to 1. I'm sorry, I didn't realize I needed to. The one no was Mr. Earnshaw. Okay, curriculum and programs. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed an item, community education. I just realized that, but there's nothing there to approve, so I think we're good. Curriculum and programs, Dr. Katona.
Thank you. On the agenda is list of textbooks for adoption for the 2018-19 school year, for college algebra and trigonometry, for ELA in grade 6, the collections publishing, discovering our past textbooks for grade 7 and for grade 8, Student's Guide to Writing College Papers for the AP Capstone course, 4 books to support the Honors German, and the Science Tech book for grade 5. And there have been no additional community members that have come in to review, except for the 2 board members that came in and looked through some of the books and made some notes.
May I have a motion to approve the textbooks for adoption for the 18-19 school year, items 1 through 10 as presented? Can I have a second? Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries 9-0. Okay, we have 9 policies up for first reading, none for second reading, and we have some committee profiles for review as per policy 005. I believe we're going to be voting on those policies, or I'm sorry, the profiles next month. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Gifts and donations, Dr. Zerbe?
Under gifts and donations, to accept the monetary gift from the Family Services of Montgomery County to be used for the pre-prom assembly on the damages of drug and alcohol abuse, gift $1,000. Number 2, accept a gift of office supplies from Transamerica to be used at Skyview Upper Elementary School, gift value of $200. Then there's no trips, but then under item C, it says Methacton representative to the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit. So the board, it's my recommendation that the board this evening select a Methacton representative to serve on the Board of School Directors for the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit beginning July 1, 2018 for a 3-year term. Once that is decided, I have the candidate nomination form sitting here that needs to be completed and submitted tomorrow to the MCIU Board of Directors. I think we put into the process here, if you want to take a motion on that particular matter to select a member. Under substitute rates, it was requested at the work session that we break the substitute rates out for approval. The rates were also adjusted as per the attachment that's associated with that. If you have questions, Dr. Sosnovic is here to answer any of those questions you might have. And lastly, the special education plan report. Dr. Engstad is here if there's any questions on that, but at the last board meeting, the last voting meeting, the board authorized us to post the special education plan. It sat for 30 days, and it is now, upon completion, and with your approval of that, we'll be able to submit that to the Pennsylvania Department of Education. I believe there were 3 minor changes to the report from when it was posted. Those changes were noted and provided in a memo this past Friday to the members of the board. If there's any questions on the special education plan, Dr. Engstad is here, as well as substitute rates. Dr. Sosnovic can answer those.
Thank you, Dr. Zerbe. So let's start with, may I have a motion to approve the gifts and donations as presented? Ms. Reese, can I have a second? Ms. Drummond, any comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries 9-0. And do I have a candidate to serve on the Board of Directors for the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit as presented?
I would like to nominate Mike Ryan, and in doing so, I would like to thank Paul Winters for all his work and for finishing up Ms. Hackett's tenure. And the reason both gentlemen could do a fantastic job, but with Mike Ryan having one less committee now and having a pretty big political interest, I nominate Mike, Mr. Ryan.
Are there any other nominees, candidates to serve on the Board of Directors for the IU? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to approve Mr. Mike Ryan as the Methacton representative to serve on the Board of Directors for the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit as presented? Well, we're taking a motion first, sorry. And a second? Okay, now all those in favor? Okay, and the motion carries 9-0. May I have a motion to approve the substitute rates, items 1 through 3, as presented this evening? Can I have a second?
Oh, I can't second, Mike.
No, you only get one.
I really want this done.
Okay, are there any comments from the board?
Yes. First, I'll go down the list. I would have preferred the per diem rates to stay exactly where they were last week. However, we are a board of 10, and I have a feeling we'll be adjusting them again next year or the year after, but I'm happy to support this. As far as a long-term substitute, I'm thrilled to see that that's going up. I know we can't do anything now, and it's also an SDS issue, but for the future, I would love to see some of those long-term substitutes get some sick days. It's really unfortunate that they have to leave substitute plans, and then they don't get paid. You know, it's just unfortunate, and it's a change. It's happened when we use a vendor, and it happens everywhere. But just for the future, something maybe to add later. It's a shame. But I'm thrilled to see that change. And as far as the guest teacher, I really am excited about this, and I just want to reiterate that not only will STS be providing training, but Methacton will be trying. I know Dr. Soknovic said this before, but we're also giving further training. I look at guest teachers as your teachers who aren't quite certified yet, because you're not allowed to substitute yet. I look at them as some of our casual on-calls maybe, who just didn't have a teaching certification. I look at it as the person who wants something fulfilling and something that can be added to our school. And I want to reiterate, I also think that the pay should have been kept the same. Again, we can adjust it in the future. And it's not because I feel that they're as valuable in terms of money as a certified teacher, but the certified teachers get first dibs on those jobs. So that was the bonus for them, so to speak. So I did want to stand up for the original plan as it was addressed, but I will support this. But I have a feeling we're going to be going to some of those more aggressive rates next year or the year after, and I want to thank the district for trying to solve a problem.
I had one question, as raised by a member of the public. Dr. Sosnovic, if you could clarify, when we talk about this long-term substitute rate of a bachelor step 1 of the 18-19 salary matrix, we're referring to the first step. So I know that we made adjustments to the salary matrix with our recent contract, but it just means that what was formerly known as step 2 has become step 1. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So if you look at the matrix as approved, step 1 is technically blacked out, but the first paid step in the salary matrix for MEA is what we're referring to here.
Thank you for clarifying that. Are there any other comments on these items as presented? Mr. Navarrete?
Yeah, thank you for coming back to the board with adjusted rates. Sorry, Andrea.
That's okay. I'm one person.
I do appreciate, too, that the guest teacher rate does not increase the way it does for the certified substitutes and retirees. I'll make the same argument I made last week about the financial impacts, that we've got to be comparing actuals from last year to future for this year. So the net increase over last year is $407,000, assuming we fill completely, which is our goal, right? I think there's some other questions I would have around budgeting. I think, Tim, these numbers that I see at the bottom of this sheet are, I'll say they're interesting. Maybe we'll just take them up in finance.
Okay, any other comments? Mr. Ryan?
I just wanted to say thank you to all involved in this process. This is an example I've talked before, is the district working as a whole. And this is a perfect example where everything and everyone worked together. A problem was identified by the teachers and the principals in the buildings. A solution was come up with, a 3-pronged solution to attack this from all angles. It went through committee, it came to a work session, we made some minor changes, and based off of the feedback I'm hearing from the night, this will most likely pass. So I just want to say thank you to all those involved, and this is what a board of 10 working together can really do. So, thank you.
Oops, sorry. 2 comments. One, I will echo the comment also. It does not need to be, I'm not going to hold it up, but I think sort of I would like to see this sort of as a reporting item every quarter, something going back through the Education Committee to understand where we are, and not, and no offense, but not every 2 years and see what the math is. We would like to see how this is, especially how these different programs are working. I think it would be helpful to provide some accounting of that along the way. The second part is I do support the ability of supply and demand differentiated rates. It's certainly not that one level is a harder teacher, or it's teaching. But the reality is that supply and demand between the secondary special type of subjects is very hard. And I suspect that at the end of the day, we may end up using a lot of hopefully, if we can't find substitutes, the guest teachers in these roles. But I think it's something we consider for next year. I realize that other Montgomery counties have not put that differentiation in, and I think that would be one way to differentiate Methacton. So I would definitely support that moving forward.
Yeah, just one more comment. Since I made the comment before about insufficient data, I think you guys did an excellent job in this case of providing a lot of data, gathering a lot of data from STS, from other counties, and putting it in front of us so that we could make an educated decision. So thank you.
All right. All those in favor of approving the substitute rates as presented? I wasn't planning on breaking them out. We had the motion to approve all 3 together.
I don't need it.
Okay. So can I have a motion, or I'm sorry, we had the motion. Can I have all those in favor of approving the substitute rates items 1 through 3 as presented? All opposed? Okay, Mr. Earnshaw, 1 opposed. The motion carries 8-1. May I have a motion to approve the special education plan report for July 1, 2018 through June 30th, this says 2018, but I believe it should be 2021 as presented. Ms. Drummond, can I have a second? Mr. Earnshaw, any comments from the board?
Again, to do a shout out to Dr. Engstad and the staff and whoever else has been involved in this. It's a very comprehensive plan. Obviously, the state is looking for a lot, and it really does tell the story. Appreciate it.
Just one question. Was there any community feedback received?
We received feedback from an individual that asked that we add a strength for service animals, and that was adjusted. Someone commented on dates that they noticed were a little off, and we made that adjustment. And there was another comment about how we're approaching something, but it wasn't something that impacted the plan, just something for future consideration.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the special education plan report as presented? Okay, the motion carries 9-0. Dates for board members' calendars, as listed here. There's a whole bunch of meetings coming up in May. Any old business this evening to take care of? Mr. Neverett?
Yeah, talking to the, the aggregate list of personnel that you shared with us in the Friday memo. Thanks for that. I think it was a good step forward. It gave us a good history of what we are. The one question I had was under professionals, it listed MEA and then it listed nurses separately, and they're listed as 2 nurses. I know we have more than 2 nurses in the district. Can you explain that?
They're certified staff nurses, so technically they receive MEA's benefits, but they're not classified as under MEA. So we have 2 individuals, Ms. Pfeiffer and also I believe Ms. Kathy Thompson. Is that correct, Dr. Einstead? In the 2?
No, it's the opposite way. There's 2, there's staff nurses and all the rest are certified.
Yes. So I said it just in reverse. And with regard to that, I did hear you regarding your, consideration for an HR plan. That's currently the first step in that report. I'm looking to de-aggregate that data to provide further insight by building and also then using the Mylone and McBroom's projections as best as we can to help give that information to you guys.
So on the nurses, we have 7 nurses then, is that what you said?
We have 7 certified nurses and 2 staff nurses.
The staff nurses, do they have different qualifications or do they have different certifications than the other nurses?
They're employed by the district. Not their certification, it's how they're employed and recognized by the district.
Okay, I'll take it offline with you then. Thank you.
Anything else for old business? Mr. Earnshaw?
Just Dr. Zerbe or Dr. Sosnovic, any updates on the early retirement plan as far as numbers? And I think it wraps up this Friday's the deadline.
Let me check my phone.
Changing by the minute?
Actually, I said that because I sent another update out to the membership just prior to this meeting, and you never know if that spurs someone's decision, but as of right now, we have 15 individuals signed up to participate in this program. It is open until 5 o'clock this Friday, so that's where we sit.
Then as far as the evaluation of replacements, is that something you expect to be completed by our May 9th Finance Committee meeting, or is that going to take a look? But okay, thank you.
Anyone else for old business? Okay, for new business, I believe that we have, do you want me to read this?
So under new business, the motion would read, approve waiver agreements for the following students. Student ID 230733, student ID 63969400515, and student ID 5306900570.
Can Can I have a motion to approve the waiver agreement for the 3 student IDs as stated by Dr. Zerbe? Ms. Reese, and a second. Ms. Drummond. Any comments on these? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving these waiver agreements as presented? Okay, the motion carries 9-0. Anything else for new business? Seeing none, we'll move to courtesy of the floor.
Amy Breyer, co-president of the Methacton Education Association. It's my pleasure to let you know about a gift that has been made to each of our elementary libraries from the Mideastern region of PSEA. And I would just like to share with you the letter that is going to accompany each copy of the book. Dear librarian, have you ever felt like a blue crayon in a red wrapper? In education, we find labels helpful in identifying student needs, but how often does a label become a self-fulfilling prophecy for a child? While this debate continues, it is refreshing to find a book that simply validates the journey of self-discovery on which we all travel. The Council for the Advancement of Public Schools, CAPS, would like to help you as you work with students on their journeys. Please accept this autographed copy of the New York Times best-selling children's author and illustrator Michael Hall's book, Red, A Crayon Story for Inclusion in Your School Library. If you already have a copy in your library, please add this one as well so that more students will have access to Michael's art and positive message. Thank you for all you do to support strong public schools and student literacy, the road that brings our students into adulthood. Best wishes for a successful conclusion to the school year. Sincerely, Alan Malachowski, President, PSEA Mideastern Region.
Thank you, Ms. Breyer. Anyone else for courtesy of the floor? Mr. Bickelman.
Joe Bickelman, Audubon. I just want to understand the German program. Right now, as it exists, do we have an honors German program? So there's no honors German program at the high school. So in expanding to an honors program, that creates the situation that stresses out the current staff member. Is that no? No?
I'm obviously not the one that's qualified other than personal experience, but I'll let Dr. Sosnovic respond to that.
I don't know what's going on. I don't understand it.
Or I guess it wouldn't be Dr. Sosnovic, I'm sorry, then Dr. Katona.
It is the honors program. Yes, it's expanding the honors program.
So you're adding an honors program
Yes.
at the high school?
Yes.
And then there's no way that one person can handle the middle school, the high school, and the honors program? Is that it?
No. So here's how it's working. The teacher, the one German teacher that we have that services the high school and services our COLA, is teaching more courses than teaching more sections than they should.
Right now?
Right now.
So they're teaching how many now? 6?
I don't know what the number is, but it's more than 5, which is by contract. It's 5. So in order to right this issue, we need to get another German teacher in place.
So how long has she been doing this?
And by doing so, it affords us then also the opportunity for at least one other section of the other course that we're adding.
So this should have happened a long time ago in the school year, right? I mean, if she's teaching too many sections outside of the contract requirements, this should have been done before, and the teacher should have been added before if that was the problem, right? If she's teaching too many sections outside of the contract requirements, MEA contract requirements. She was doing this all year, right? I don't know. Mrs. Larseny's, you abstained from a German vote before because your student's involved in German, right? And you abstained from, what was it, the textbook approval?
No, I abstained from the vote to approve the adding of the honors sections.
Okay. But you voted for the teacher, though? Or Okay. Another thing I want to add about the phone quotations for the vendors for repairs and facilities. Hopefully that the phone quotations are documented, and that document is attached to the purchase orders in the paid file, so that Mr. Bricker can check out the phone quotes on the documentation, just that they're there. As far as you waived the requirement to come back from sabbatical for a teacher, I just want to let the board know, I don't know if you know, but when a teacher's on sabbatical, they get half pay, but you're paying the full retirement on that half pay. And if somebody doesn't come back, the board has the option to recapture the district's cost of retirement. I don't know if you know that, but I don't know what went into this situation here, but you do have that option. If it ever comes up again, you can recapture that cost of somebody not coming back from sabbatical. You can get your retirement money back. And my last question is, what is a waiver agreement? I have no idea what that is, a waiver agreement that the students were involved in, the student approved. I don't know what a waiver agreement is. I don't know what that is, a waiver agreement.
There are agreements for potential placements and or settlements.
All right.
Dr. Malik?
Mind if I give you guys something? Can you use something? Actually, it is yours. No, it's not yours. Jim Malik, Worcester. Is Mr. Navarrete still the liaison to Worcester Township?
I am, sir.
I've repeatedly made the case to you guys that new homes with children will cause a deficit to the district. And basically, I use the board as my example, with property taxes coming in of roughly $70,000, the cost being roughly $400,000, generating a deficit of roughly $300,000. I don't have the exact numbers, but I used you guys as the example because that's where I could get the numbers. I can't find other people in the district, so I used you guys. And this past Wednesday, the Worcester Board of Supervisors held a work session where they discussed the Palmer property. And that's a development that's proposed that I handed you folks. And I missed my friend, Mr. Navarrete, who's the liaison, because I had to make your case, or the district's case, to the board about why it was not a good idea about what they're doing. Because they're putting in about 85 townhomes or carriage homes. And the commercial that they're going to do, commercial development, is minimal. And I was trying to make the case to them that, look, you're going to put a strain on the school district with kids, and you should be doing more commercial, because that's how you take care of the deficit situation. More commercial, less residential, and more revenue to you guys. So I'm there by myself making the case for Methacton School District, believe it or not. And I could have used my friend, Mr. Navarrete, to help me, because he obviously knows the numbers probably better than I do. But, you know, the way it works is for the last 3 years at the Planning Commission, they were working on an ordinance where they could have done a whole big commercial area down at Center Point, but there was no representation from the school district driving that issue. You know, you guys should have been there for 3 years hawking these people for commercial development, but you weren't. I was there, I was trying, but, you know, this is why there needs to be cooperation between the school district and Worcester Township. And the way you guys get more revenue, 55 and older, commercial, federal and state funding. You don't get it by more residential development.
Dr. Malik, can you please wrap up?
Sure. So I give this to you for your review, and to have my friend, Mr. Navarrete, join me a little more often in Worcester to try to help me try to get you guys more funding. That's why I'm here. Thanks.
Anyone else for courtesy of the floor? Mr. Andrews.
John Andrews, Lower Providence again. There was some mention earlier this evening about planning for the future in terms of enrollment in schools. And also there was some study by Malone and McBroom a year and a half ago as to alternatives to house the students if 2 elementary schools were closed. And at that time I'd made mention of an alternative configuration that hasn't been considered adequately, and I want to bring it up again, and that is that if you have the 3 elementary schools, those 3 elementary schools and Skyview could be K-5 schools. And I mentioned K-5 schools because of their educational advantages. And then having Arcola be a 6-8 school. And I think that there ought to be some, perhaps a committee formed to study such a configuration, and it might fit in with closing the Arcola school in 2019, so that it's something that ought to be considered post haste, and it's something that I think is allowable in terms of the enrollment projections, or feasible. With regard to Policy 903, I had done a study back in 2013 that resulted in our expanding courtesy of the floor from 2 minutes to 3 minutes, and now you want to go to 4 minutes. And looking across all the districts in the county, there are quite a few with a 30-minute total for courtesy of the floor. Back then there were 7 with no time limits. There were 5 or 6 with 3-minute time limits, and I think that we're in many areas where Methacton goes with the average on the county or the median in the county, that we ought to go to 8 minutes. Part of my thinking there is that you don't have a lot of the public coming forward, but you have members of the public who are very interested in the district and have constructive thought to offer.
Mr. Andrews, can you please wrap up?
Yes, and also with regard to the, very briefly here, where the superintendent has indicated that 36 excess teachers, and perhaps one of those is because we offer driver ed, that puts a considerable burden of maybe $4 million or more on the taxpayers. It holds back young teachers from available jobs in the region due to the drop-off in teacher certifications. It has little benefit to students.
Mr. Andrews, please wrap up.
Yeah, I am. And the high taxes cause sheriff sales, which have a considerable impact on the communities. And programs such as the retirement incentive option don't save money in the long run. There have been studies supporting that contention. And so I think that...
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Please wrap up.
On the superintendent to come up with a way of reducing the number of excess teachers in an orderly manner. Thank you.
Anyone else for courtesy of the floor? Yes, sir.
Peter Schlenker, Lower Providence. I have in my hand the 2017 Lower Providence Annual Report. I just looked at the planning and construction activity section. And in 2017, a total of 219 individual family homes were either planned or under construction in Lower Providence Township. And Dr. Mollick just mentioned that Worcester is doing the same thing. My point for this is I'm not saying about enrollment or anything like that, but I'm looking at the Audubon property. And I think it would be a very wise decision to at least seriously consider just raising it and letting it sit. And it's the school district maintaining ownership, whether it be Audubon or, as the conversations go on, possibly Arrowhead, whichever. But that way there is a piece of land available if you would need to build a building, either to replace a building or to add a building if enrollment would change such that way. And it would be minimal cost, and there is no more land. What we have is what we have. And if we have a piece available, the cost will be a whole lot less to build than if we have to acquire a piece of land through eminent domain.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for courtesy of the floor? Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn? And a second? Okay. Meeting is adjourned.